Yeah, so a little update on this Joc Pederson, Tommy Pham situation. And I will start this update by saying the best baseball player on the planet has been inserted into this drama by Tommy Pham, who was suspended for 3 games for slapping Joc Pederson the other day over a fantasy football situation. I covered this pretty in depth on the Monday episode. So if you want to hear all about it, go back and listen to that first. But here's the update, because I had a lot of questions here. Wait a second, Tommy Pham, who's never played with Joc Pederson, was in this league, and they have a group chat, and Tommy Pham took offense to Joc insulting the Padres, and it was like, who is in this league? How much money is on the line for somebody to be slapping somebody the first time they see them? What is going on? I have answers. Have no fear. Let's start with the buy-in. The buy-in for this fantasy football league was $10,000. So, admittedly so, a lot of money. If somebody messed with my money, if somebody messed with my $10,000, well, I probably wouldn't slap him because I'm a pacifist and don't believe in fighting. But hey, Tommy Pham decided to take actions into his own hands, quite literally. The commissioner of this league, who was that? Well, we had no idea. It turns out it's Mike Trout. What? How is Mike Trout the commissioner of this fantasy football league with Joc Pederson and Tommy Pham? I have no idea. Who else is in this league? Manny Machado, which that kind of makes sense. There's the Padre connection. Eric Hosmer. Now we're getting a few Padres. Mike Moustakas. I don't really understand anything about this fantasy football league, but I promise you, I am here for all the drama. And Tommy Pham comes back from his suspension and basically throws Mike Trout into the fire and under the bus. That doesn't sound like in a fire and under a bus. Not a fun place to be. But he basically insulted Mike Trout as a commissioner and said he's the worst commissioner of any league he's ever been in. He allowed a lot of stuff to go on that shouldn't have. Now, Trout had to answer to all of this in a press conference, and of course, reporters ended up asking him about this. Mike Trout declined to comment on whether Joc Pederson violated the rules of the fantasy league. He said he is unsure if he'll resign as commissioner for this coming season. And he said, quote, "Every commissioner I know gets booed." This story is just madness, and I love it. Guys are just like us. Everybody plays fantasy football. I say just like us. We don't all have $10,000 buy-ins. But the passion, the energy, the frustration when you have somebody that you're playing against that you think does something wrong, it's all there. And this is just comical. After Tommy Pham spoke tonight, I now believe this whole fantasy thing with Joc Pederson is now completely Commissioner Mike Trout's fault. He could have solved this easy, and now it's the most controversial thing Trout's ever been involved in. It's a great tweet. This situation, producer Conrad, I think we of anybody can understand this. We get into it sometimes. We're competitive. I think everybody can appreciate that you have these Major League Baseball players that play on the top stage in all of the world in front of millions, and at the end of the day, they're worried about their fantasy football team and throwing the commissioner that had nothing to do with it in the moment, throwing him under the bus and making this a big deal.
Yeah, totally. You know, if I wasn't winning our fantasy football league all year, I would have thrown you under the bus after week 2 or 3. But, you know, it's one of those things where it's just fantasy football just kind of takes over life for a solid 3 or 4 months. And when you're putting 10,000 on it, what I don't understand, though, is Tommy Pham saying, "Hey, man, you messed with my money. That's why I hit you." Well, Tommy Pham, you cost yourself $111,000 on the back end.
Yeah, exactly. I hope that slap was worth it, because you might have lost your 10,000, which he dropped out of the league, by the way. Let's not forget that. So let's say
behavior.
Let's say that one move that he's so pissed off about cost him the week. He still dropped out, which means his team wasn't very good to begin with. So this all, to me, sounds like a cop-out, and his team just wasn't very good, and he's taking it out on everybody else when his draft must have just sucked. That's my opinion.
Yeah, well, along the lines of everything, I kind of do feel bad for Tommy Pham because now no one is ever going to invite him to play fantasy football ever again. The rest of his life, he will never get to know the joy of hosting a fantasy football championship, and that has to hurt. It has to hurt.
Thanks for watching. If you love flipping bats, swinging 3-0, or just talking ball, join us. Call us at 213-537-9339 with your questions. We have a weekly guest, and we have a lot of fun, so hit that subscribe button.